Hi class, this week you're going to be diving into the book of Revelation in your reading, so I thought I'd shoot you a quick message that I hope will supplement your reading in the textbooks as well. And I'm creating this message simply because, as you know, Revelation is one of the most talked about books in Scripture, and I believe one of the most misunderstood. There are four general interpretive approaches to the book of Revelation that readers and or scholars tend to take. The first and most common is the futurist point of view, that Revelation is pointing to events in our future. This is problematic for several reasons. Number one, what did the document mean for its initial readers? Certainly, our fundamental assumption is Revelation cannot mean what it did not mean. That is, this document had relevance to its audience. John had a reason for writing it. And the second problematic part is simply what the fictional publishing world has made of the book of Revelation through series such as Left Behind, which you may have heard of. It's one of the best-selling series in the history of fictional literature, just quite remarkable. Authors making tens of millions of dollars, movies, etc., etc. And unfortunately, that kind of sensationalism has tended to disengage the interpretation of the book of Revelation from New Testament scholarship. And so because of that, it may be that some of the reading materials this week are going to be quite new for you, but I think they'll also be stimulating and engaging. There are three other interpretive camps for the book of Revelation that are also quite interesting. The second view might be called an idealist view, which would see the book of Revelation as a metaphor for the ongoing fight between good versus evil, God versus Satan, the cosmic powers of darkness versus God's power of light. The third view might be called the church age view. Interestingly, this was the viewpoint of John Calvin, Martin Luther, who saw the Antichrist as the Pope and understood the book of Revelation to be charting through the various ages of the church. So, for example, when the Roman Empire fell apart in the 4th century, Augustine, the famous theologian of grace, assumed that the 1,000-year millennial reign of Christ that we see at the end of the book of Revelation had begun. And we could see how living in that time would cause Augustine to suggest that kind of thing. And finally, the interpretive viewpoint of Revelation that you're going to be looking at in the textbooks the most this week is called preterism, and that is a historical viewpoint of this document that understands Revelation as a part of apocalyptic literature alongside Daniel, Zechariah, 1st Enoch, 4th Ezra, and other Jewish and Christian documents that were written between the 2nd century BC and the 2nd century AD. And within this genre of literature, it's very clear to me that Revelation is depicting the ongoing struggle that the early Christians had with the Roman Empire. And what's remarkable about this viewpoint is if there are 7,000 Christians at the time of the writing of the book of Revelation, which has been postulated, this means that a small group of persecuted Christians faced down the greatest empire in world history. And through this document of Revelation, they were saying, God is going to win, and we are going to prevail. So I look forward to our discussion together this week.